the gateway to the Americas. That is the way many of us perceive Miami to be. Here in the United States and around the world. Investors, entrepreneurs from foreign lands come to the United States via Miami and start operating from this city. And one of them is Nadav Solomon, president and co-founder of Tabit, a fast-growing and successful hospitality tech company that has chosen North Miami Beach as the headquarters for the firm's United States operation. And Nadav Solomon is here and now, aquí y ahora, with us for a conversation with Juan Pablo Cappello, founder and senior partner at PAG.law, the sponsors of Aquí y Ahora. This podcast specializes in venture capital around the hemisphere. Tabit began setting up earlier this year in South Florida, just before the pandemic hit us, and hit us badly. And he did it with the assistance of the Miami-Dade Beacon Council and Enterprise Florida. Tabit recently raised $35 million in venture capital to reach a total of $65 million, and that is a success. Nadav is today still a high-ranking officer in the Israeli Navy, in charge of command and control systems when he was active in the Navy, before going to study biotechnology and food engineering and working at Ernst Young as a senior strategic consultant for the food industry. Now, why Southern Florida? Well, the answer, according to Nadav, is I think for a tech company to reside here and build its operations in this particular place is the best thing you can imagine for a hospitality tech startup. Ladies and gentlemen, with you, Nadav Solomon and Juan Pablo Cappello.
Nadav, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
No, it's great. Hey, I was super excited to chat with you. One of the things, I've lived in Miami 20 years. I'm always super interested, for people who come to Miami sort of with fresh eyes, right? That it's almost like, your kids. Even though when they grow up, you still look at them and think about them as if, they were 5 years old, and you don't realize how much they've grown. And it sometimes takes somebody who hasn't seen them for 5 years or 10 years to be like, oh my God, I can't believe the change. So yeah, I'm interested with Tabit and your guys, I know you have operations in Dallas, in the United States as well. Why Miami? You're obviously living, I understand, in North Miami Beach. Talk to us a little bit about what the journey, what the process was like, and of course, chat about the company.
Sure. So first of all, it's a pleasure being here. I love your podcast.
Thanks.
I really appreciate the time. So we started out with the U.S. market about 2.5 years ago with Dallas, Texas, as what we call the center of excellence. For us, it was just to make sure we run some water in the system. Our technology has been working in the Israeli market for about 6 years. We're the market leaders. We have about 40-45% market share.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Thank you. So it's pretty solid. Later on, I'll tell a little bit about technology. But when we moved to the U.S. market, so we focus on Dallas because we have to run some tests, to make sure the tax, the tips, all the restaurant operation is the same. And we pretty much got great feedback from our customers. And I was, on the line between Tel Aviv and Dallas, spending a week every month for the past 2.5 years.
Wow,
So,
at some point you want to stop traveling. That's tough on the body, tough on the family, tough on everything.
Exactly, but also we did understand that the business is great, the opportunity is huge, And we were looking for a city that has a combination of hotels, cruise ship, restaurants, and a vibrant food scene, which is Miami. Right? There are not a lot of locations like Miami. The hospitality technology is terrific. People are very warm. They embrace new technologies and innovation. And yeah, and we like it. So we decided to headquarter our operations over here. And mind you, between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, you got 95% of the global cruise ship industry. So for us,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so that's a great opportunity.
So why don't, for the people who don't know the business, and who didn't have the pleasure of reading the article and refresh that came out about you guys, why don't you chat a little bit about, sort of the technology, your market focus, and how it seems to fit in well with, sort of the demographics and the market opportunity in South Florida.
Sure. So we do restaurant technology. We provide restaurants with a full 360 solution to run all their tech stack. Okay, whether it's from point of sale, table-side ordering, online ordering, reservation system, of course, kitchen display system, and headquarters, dashboards, and management systems. Now, we feel that the U.S. market, especially SMB restaurants and medium-sized chains, even, is being neglected for many years from technology perspective. Meaning, there are a lot of tech companies, what we call aggregators, who ran and built some great technologies for delivery, for curbside solutions, for reservation system, and even from payment system. But all these technologies look from their point of view, right? Well, they want to, of course, generate more revenues and get more attractions and more customers. But no one of these companies that what we been encountered actually looks from the restaurant point of view. So if it's a reservation system, some companies take $1 per head. Other companies take 25 to 30% of delivery fees from the restaurants, in addition to taking control of their brands and their customers. From the payment side, there are some payment companies, even point of sale companies, charging 3.2 to up to 4% of the revenues. And there is no one company that say, hey, we need to take care of our bread and butter, our restaurant operators. We need to build a technology shield for them. That's what we call the Robin Hood, in the positive perspective of Robin Hood.
Right.
And help them make their business more profitable. So that's what Tabit does. We are about 125 employees. We so far raised $65 million from some great investors like Vertex Ventures and Pitango and Arel. And my co-founder has, about 35, 40 years experience in this industry, because basically, I don't know if you remember a company called Retalix. They were the biggest point of sale company in the world, later on acquired by NCR in 2012. They did a point of sale for Publix, Whole Food Market, Target, some big accounts. So we have a lot of experience on how to run businesses, and that's our vision.
And it's interesting. Obviously, Miami's obviously known as the gateway to Latin America, right? And we have over 150 large multinationals like Facebook, like Yahoo, like Microsoft on the tech side, and lots of other more brick and mortar kinds of multinationals who have their headquarters for Latin America based in Miami. On the other hand, Miami's also always had a very strong connection with Israel, culturally, et cetera. Did that connection come into play? I mean, for instance, I was on the community board of the Knight Foundation for 5 years, and I think they did two trips to Israel, because for a long time, Israel was the second most important venture capital market in the world after the United States and Silicon Valley. And I don't know if it still is. I imagine if it's not, it's definitely in the top five. So yeah, was the decision to come to Miami, one like a lot of Latin founders, where culturally it felt also like a good fit beyond just the market opportunity, or that didn't really play into it? Or do you see a bit of a back and forth between Israel and South Florida?
That's a great question. I think it's because of the people. I think the culture is similar. Also, the
Right.
weather, by the way, which is
Yeah, no, that's what I've always heard, that it's not that dissimilar than Tel Aviv, right?
no, it's not as humid. But anyway, we're working with people. People here embrace technologies. They're really warm. They're looking for new innovations, especially in the restaurant industry. You actually see customers looking for more technology, more ways to improve their businesses. Just between, I think, say Aventura, where I live, to Miami, I know at least 6 other hospitality technology companies. Of, I think, 3 of them are
Wow, that's
Israeli
amazing.
founders, which is, yeah, probably it has something to do with it. But definitely, we believe that Miami is a good market, and it feels much like Tel Aviv in concentration of restaurants, a combination of boutique hotels, not just big chains. Well, there are a lot of big chains
Right.
here, but also a lot of boutique hotels, pool bars, beach restaurants, and of course, fine dining and fine cuisine. And this combination for us is very important to show that we can work also with quick service restaurants, beach hotels, beach restaurants, hotels, and some big chains. I don't see a lot of locations in the US where you can get this value from one city.
Right. And let's talk about, your investors. How did they feel, about the expansion into the US? Obviously, you guys were in Dallas, I understand, first, and then you came to Miami. Have they been fully supported? Did they have certain reservations that you needed to assuage and, sort of show them the metrics, or were they pushing you to do this?
Definitely, we work based on numbers and forecasts and potentials. Miami is, we are headquartered here for the US market, but
Right.
just the entry point. We cover today 32 states. We created a network of channel partners that we work all over the country with them to implement our system. So in Dallas, we have the Center of Excellence, where we have about 20 people for partner success managers, support center, and demo sites. And of course, some couple of restaurants that we manage by ourselves, just to get a product better every day. But Miami for us is also to get some big brands on board. So, and my investors understand this. Now, when we come to a partner in Chicago or in Omaha, we can show them that we also can work with what we call all American city restaurants. But
Right.
we can also work with the big brand. Like, we just deployed a couple of weeks ago the Giannis in the former Versace mansions. We deployed Serafina. These are big brands, and you definitely can find them here in Miami.
Absolutely.
And my investor understand this.
And for you, from a personal perspective, how's the transition been? I mean, how long have you been here in Miami? And yeah, what have you, has it been an easy? Have you found it challenging?
Yeah, well, relocation process has its pros and cons. Of course, it puts some stress
Absolutely.
on the personal side, but I think the opportunity, the business opportunity, that we see is huge, and my family is supportive, and I got my kid to register to the Jewish Community Center here, so he can get some of the Israeli
Right.
side of life, which is nice. Um, yeah, well, running the company's operation for the U.S. market has to be on a U.S. land. It cannot be remotely. We understood it, especially when we work with restaurant owners. They want to see your face. They want to look you in the eyes and to trust you. Our business is built on trust. Just think about it. Today we transact about $2 billion, $3 billion a year in transactions for restaurants. These people actually let us manage your money, right? So they want to
literally and figuratively.
Exactly. That's why we also put a great focus on hiring people from all over the country to have a local presence in every major city that we're going to operate in.
And actually, you touched on that. Actually what was going to be my next question. In terms of remote work, obviously, with COVID and the quarantine, remote work, we say in Chile, where I'm from, the flag, the saying under the flag says, by reason or by force, por la razón o por la fuerza. And it's almost been that, remote work, I think, has made sense for a long time. But, it wasn't being adopted very quickly, and now we were sort of forced to adopt it. Are you guys focused on remote work? And in terms of, sales, as you said, local restaurant owners want to see that there's somebody local that they can look in the eye, who they can trust. Are you guys very focused on remote work? And how has that changed, if at all, due to COVID and the quarantine?
Definitely, we're focused on converting all of our business to be agile enough to support remote work in addition to local presence. Of course, in support cases, training stuff, you can do it over the web. It's good enough. But I believe that working with the restaurant operators themselves operating in brick and mortar, right? They converted to online ordering. This is easy. We converted, I think, in 30 hours. We converted 600 of our customers in the first 30 hours.
Wow.
Of the quarantine, the first big quarantine we had. But then we work with local partners. So for every big city in the U.S., we have a local presence of partners that already have a couple of thousand restaurants they manage on our other platform. Okay, some legacy point of sale systems, whether they do the Wi-Fi, the point of sale system, the kitchen display system for them. But all of these organizations are looking for a good, robust cloud-based system. So now we can work with our establishment and infrastructure we've been built here for the past couple of years. We can work remotely with our local partners. And that's the right combination, the way I see it.
And in terms of, staff in various cities, how do you roll out a new city? Or let's talk about Miami. How did you guys, you made the commitment that you're moving to Miami. How did you test the market before you moved? Did you have like a local team in Miami and you just saw the opportunity, or did you guys just jump right in the pool? I mean, you mentioned you're very data driven. I know you were in the military. And I know in the military, it's all about planning and then execution, right? You don't wing anything. You study things, you analyze, and then you execute. How did you guys sort of, quote unquote, tackle the U.S. market? Or not the U.S., excuse me, the Miami market particularly?
Yeah. So, of course, there are a lot of data companies that can provide you with number of restaurants, segments, whether it's hotels, cruise ship, full service restaurant, big chains, etc. And also the combination and what is the ratio between big chains, what we call elephant hunting,
right,
compared to local moms and pops or just like small, SMBs. So definitely, we ran a lot of numbers in our systems. We saw the potential. Now, mind you, when we look at the Miami market, we see a lot of opportunity in creating ecosystem between hotels and local restaurants. So imagine you are in South Beach, okay, and you're lying on the beach and everything is great, but you want to order food. So imagine you can order food from any restaurant around you and charge the hotel room you're staying in during these days. So
Yeah,
that
that's an amazing functionality.
exactly, and this is something we understood that we can create. Now, when you have this chicken and egg play, and you create enough restaurants and enough hotels at the same area, then it's a wildfire. It goes
It goes
viral.
virtual because it goes viral because
Exactly.
then everyone likes that functionality, but you need to get to that tipping point.
Exactly. Now, we created this in the past. We've done it very successfully in Israel, in a couple of major cities, in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, in Haifa. And we saw the opportunity where customers logging into our website or app or just a restaurant on Facebook or Instagram, placing an order, making a reservation, booking a table for that night, without going through the aggregator sites. So we've been able to reduce, I would say, 20% from that 30% delivery fee we're getting for restaurants. We've been able to cut $1 per head to, say, 5 to 10 pennies, right?
Wow,
So that's a
that's
huge
a
amount of
huge
money.
savings.
Exactly. But also, they got better control on their customers because now, unlike, I don't know, 10 years ago, you can actually talk to your customer directly through social media. So
Right.
that's your biggest CRM ever, right? So you're posting in Facebook, you get stories in Instagram, you do whatever you want, but then you have also call to action. We tab it directly to our kitchen. So I think that's one thing that I wanted also to mention about it.
Yeah, one thing I don't know if this has been your experience, and I'd like your reaction because one thing I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs who are coming from Latin America, and you know sometimes they're sort of considering Miami or Austin, Texas, or Silicon Valley, right? That's often sort of the three choices that they're making, and my point to them is that the Miami tech ecosystem. I don't know if you're aware. Last year had about $2.3 billion worth of investment. I mean, to give you an idea, the whole tech ecosystem in Latin America in 2018, a year earlier, was only 1.8 billion. So in South Florida, we had more tech investment than in all of Latin America. And to give you an idea, all of Latin America is 600 million people. And South Florida, depending on, I'm not sure, it's about 11 to 12 million people. All in. And my point to entrepreneurs is often, hey, the Miami ecosystem isn't as deep as some of these other ecosystems, but it's very manageable. As opposed to Silicon Valley, where it's very hard to connect and get in. I mean, yes, you can go to meetups or whatever, but you're going to be meeting people like you who don't know anyone, right? The people who really are the movers and shakers. Are hard to access. Whereas my feeling is in Miami, it's relatively easy to sort of meet with the relevant players. Has that been your experience in terms of connecting, or have you found it sort of difficult to penetrate?
Well, I have a very good experience with how people here welcoming me. They want to share from their experience. Look
Right.
how I know how I met you through mutual friend, right? So
Exactly.
I don't have a lot of experience with the Silicon Valley to give the right comparison, but I do have experience with New York. I think New York is also a little bit more competitive market,
Right.
But it's a different type of business. I'm not sure if I were in the cybersecurity spectrum, where would I be choose to resign my
Right.
headquarters, right? But definitely in hospitality experience, where as a point of sale company in its DNA, we need to integrate to other system. We need to have people to recommend us, and we need to be out there. So I think exactly working with the local community here, creating and helping the community go through crises like the pandemic we just had, by helping
Right.
them leverage technology in order to streamline more business, that led us to a very good result. I can share with you that we provide today 6 months for free for the COVID period, at least for the COVID period. Whenever you start during the COVID period, you get 6 months free on our system for online and reservation system. So, and we also create some community sites. We work with the city of Chicago. We work with the city of Dallas to create some community site. Now we're also going to do it here in Miami, where you can have all the restaurants you want to list over there. For each restaurant, you can reserve a table. You can build your profile. You can make online order and curbside checkout, and that's for free.
No, that's amazing. One thing I was interested to see in the refresh article was that you all got support from the Beacon Council, Miami-Dade's Beacon Council, as well as Enterprise Florida. Those are a couple institutions that I've dealt with in the past, but I'm not that aware in terms of the kind of support they offer companies like yours. Maybe you could talk about that, because that's something I think a lot of people, even involved in the local tech ecosystem like myself, aren't really aware of those programs. What were those programs like, and did they help, you make the decision to put your U.S. headquarters here in South Florida?
Sure. First, the introduction was made by the Israel Florida Chambers of Commerce. They introduced me to Christine Johnson from Beacon Council. She's been very helpful for me, made a lot of introduction, either to recruiting companies, to real estate companies, to rent a good office space in the right location, to PR companies, and of course.
Oh, okay. So she's been really helping you, like almost like an ambassador, helping you get
Exactly.
connected with the right resources.
Exactly. And for a newcomer, that's a great help, because a year ago I didn't know the ecosystem here. I didn't know too many people. Well, a couple of my investors are reside here between Ventura and Boca.
Right.
They made some great introductions, but aside from that, I didn't know no one. And the Beacon Council really helped in this matter.
And what about Enterprise Florida? They were mentioned also in the article.
Of course, yeah, of course. So the same activities we have. I just today in the morning I was part of this a weekly Zoom cafe, where we have a couple of leaders from Enterprise Florida and the Beacon Council, and we all sit together and talk about how to help local businesses to build their stuff. So definitely. Both these organizations were very helpful, and Tabit is grateful for that.
No, that's wonderful. And please don't be polite. What do you think is an ecosystem we could be doing better to help companies like yours, or attract companies like yours to South Florida? Are there, do you see, has lack of, sometimes I've heard in the past lack of talent, or lack of investors, or, just what are the things as you're getting to know the ecosystem, you think that, we need to maybe, focus on?
So I will try to be polite.
No one wants polite. Everyone wants truth. That's the only way we're going to get better.
You want some juice?
Yeah.
In my previous life before Tabit, I worked for Ernst Young. 2.5 years
right.
in the incentive program, the global incentive group. I ran a small team over there, and we were part of this ecosystem and stimulated the Israeli tech industry. I think that the number one driver are funds.
Right.
There are a lot of options how to provide capital to entrepreneurs, matching capital, without getting them more diluted by investors, but also give the investors the safety they're looking for. So, for example, what we did in Israel is that the chief scientist of the Israeli government has formed this due diligence team that runs due diligence on companies.
Right.
First, it's a grant. So first you need to, of course, to apply for that grant. But he runs a very thorough due diligence on innovation, on market potential, and on personnel, like leadership.
Wow.
So once you get this stamp, this certification of quality, so it definitely gives a lot of comfort for angel investors. There is money in South Florida. There is a lot of
Right.
money from Latin America and also international money
Yeah, no, absolutely.
from Eastern Europe and French. A lot of money over here. And there are great people, great entrepreneurs that I already met. I don't know, a couple of dozens of these guys. But I think there is no right infrastructure
Yeah.
for them to run the system. It's not only about technology. It's not only about the people. All of this is very important. But I think the number one stimulation factor should be the money and
Yeah.
how to make it safer for investors to get into this market.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. That's a very good point. I mean, in South Florida, we have Endeavor, which is focused on helping companies grow and scale, maybe where you guys were, 3 years ago, kind of stage. But I think you're right. If there was some sort of better way to, I mean, we have, Miami Angels, which I helped co-found, which is 120 angel investors. They vet companies, but I agree, a more
Government money.
professional government kind of, alternative would definitely would definitely help. It's quite interesting. As you've mentioned a few times how in your business, a restaurant business, and I'm going to broadly define it as hospitality, right? And that one of the things when we began focusing on trying to build the Miami tech ecosystem up, or at least build some infrastructure to create connections. You had people like Susan Amat, who, if you haven't met, I'm sure at some point you will. She had the Launchpad and then the Venture Hive. And, her thesis was, Miami's a great place for all businesses, but it's a particularly good place for companies in hospitality, travel, hospitality industry, travel industry, cruise industry, the entertainment industry, health sector, health tech. And like, I think there was one other vertical, logistics, because of the ports, etc. What do you think about that? Like, when you're in 6 months, back in Israel, for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, talking with your friends, and some of them are saying, "Yeah, I'm thinking about going to the U.S." Will you sort of focus Miami in terms of one of those verticals? Is that where you see the opportunity and the natural sort of place for Miami? I mean, how do you think Miami should position itself to attract world-class entrepreneurs like you guys?
So Miami has a couple of benefits. In addition to the local business, which is, of course, as you mentioned, hospitality and travel, and that goes without saying.
Right.
Miami is multicultural people, multilingual community. if you want to build your support center globally,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you well, you got a Latin American, you got a Brazilian, you got a Chinese, you got Indian. Many people live here. Um, I think real estate, in terms of office space,
Mm.
real estate is considerably low than the Silicon Valley, Seattle, or New
Oh my.
York. Um, and I think for European company like ourselves, well, Israeli company, also the
Right.
time difference working with the tech team and development team in Israel compared to working from the Silicon Valley has some major benefits in Miami.
Yeah.
Okay, you get another 3 hours every day. So just think about what
Right.
happened to companies like ourselves. If we get I don't know, a demand from one of our customers to run, let's take some small stuff. You want a
Right.
new feature in one of the system we have. Okay, so you submit a request that day. We build everything over here in terms of need and product stuff. Send it back to Israel.
Right.
They develop it. They can sometimes develop it overnight, and tomorrow morning it would get a solution. This.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
Yeah. So there are a lot of many things that if you are Israeli or a European entrepreneur, you need to think about when you're looking into the US market, especially these days when everything is remote. It doesn't really matter where you reside, right? But it does matter the cost, does matter how much would it take you to train and find people that can speak Spanish, Portuguese, and of course many other languages, and you can find them here. And it also will open up an opportunity to go south, and that's a
Right.
huge market. That's a huge market, especially in the travel and the hospitality industries, but also in other industries.
Yeah. No, that's a really interesting point. Yeah. I mean, at the Knight Foundation, they definitely had this sort of thesis around almost being a triangle. That Miami was a great for European, Israeli, Eastern European companies, a great way to tackle the US market, particularly if you're in one of these verticals where Miami is an important market, hospitality, travel, logistics, health tech, etc. But then also as a sort of way into the Latin market, where obviously, Brazil and Mexico represent 67%, or it might even be higher than that. It's at least 67. It might be 76%. I might have gotten that confused, but it's at least 67% of all of the purchasing power of Latin America. So it's
Wow.
very interesting because we have, I mean, people don't realize, Mexico City's like a 2-hour plane flight from Miami. I mean, it's far closer than New York City. And, people like me will fly to Mexico City just for the day. Like I'll literally wake up in Miami and go to bed in Miami, having spent the day in Mexico City. And by
Doing
the way,
business.
I'm not flying private. So, you can buy a, American or a JetBlue, ticket or Spirit ticket for, a couple $100 and go for the day.
Sure.
And in terms of one of the challenges, and I don't know if you have any thoughts about this, that I've, spent a lot of time the last 10 years focused on is you mentioned that there's a lot of wealth in Miami. How do we, from your perspective, what are the kinds of, because I always look around with all these beautiful houses on the water and, those beautiful buildings in Aventura with the penthouses, et cetera. I always think, man, if we could get those people to spend 5% of what they're spending on their boats and their planes and their toys, investing in tech, in companies like yours, we would have, if Silicon Valley and Israel are the two largest, sort of tech markets in the world, we could be number 3. I mean, just the amount of vast wealth that you see in South Florida. Do you have any ideas how to get those people more engaged with entrepreneurship, et cetera, with people like you?
Well, I have ideas. I don't know if that's the right idea.
Nah, but yeah, look, no
Sometimes I
one's
say,
listening. Let's just share the
nonsense.
ideas.
Yeah, I think networking. I think creating an event where you can pitch companies to wealth management groups or to individuals.
Right,
But putting these startup companies on stage, it's really good. We have a competition we ran in Israel. Ernst Young did it for many years. It's called The Pitch. Every year, we chose, I think, 15 companies, and we made a process, and it was like
right,
TEDx session, and they made like a pitch. We brought on board a PR firm to cover all these sessions, and we got a very good exposure because people looking for new investments, especially these days, where they're looking for some more
right,
communal investment, something that they can see in the eyes, talk to the person itself, and we
right.
got it here, right? We got the money and we got the people and we got technology. So I think that would be a great initiative to create something big around it. One major event, or combine it with any other big event that we have here. Because I always hear people here asking me, do you know any good company I can invest in as an angel investor?
That's
I
amazing.
also know from the other side, a lot of companies that are looking for this money, right? So that may be a good platform.
So look, thank you so much for, making the time. I can tell you that as somebody who's been, passionate about helping, promote a tech ecosystem down here for, 10 plus years. When I see people like you moving to South Florida, I think that's amazing. Mainly because I've been doing it for very selfish reasons. I have three daughters who are now in their 20s. And when I started 10 years ago, I just always thought, man, I want my daughters to move back to Miami, when they're in their late 20s, sort of once they've seen the world. And I want them to come back to Miami and be able to build great companies here, not have to go into real estate or be a private banker. Not that that's terrible, but I would like them to have other alternatives. What advice are you giving, your team, sort of here and now, to maintain optimism and strength in these difficult times? This is my last question, but I'm sure, you and your co-founder, 120 people, investors, you guys in difficult times, it's like the in military, like, the leader rousing the troops, or, I sail, the captain rousing, the team on a ship that, hey, these are tough days. What advice, what are you telling your team and your stakeholders in your company in terms of, how to face these challenging times?
It's funny because Barry Shaked, my co-founder, my partner,
Yeah.
actually yesterday had a session with all the global management asking how we can increase the morale, right?
Right.
And how do people feel? And he has always this sensitivity to people and make sure they feel good, because that's the gas we're running on. So I think creating a lot of activities together. We have every week we have our happy hour. It doesn't matter where you're over the globe, but you're gonna
You
get
do a virtual happy hour?
we have a virtual happy hour
That's
every
amazing.
week. We talk about highs and lows, like dinner time. With each of our team members, the time is important. Give them the time to express themselves, get their feedback. It's really important. But eventually, there is a saying from by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry: if you want to build a ship, do not drum up people and assign them to tasks, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea.
Eso!
That's a good one. And we talk about the vision. How can we help the community? Can we help? And this is something I brought from the Navy. This is one of the best saying that I like.
Right.
Always talk about the vision, the goal, where we're gonna sail. Okay. So definitely, I think that people want to feel connected. They're not connected today. Zoom, it's nice, but they need to feel part of something big.
Right. Well, look, I love that you guys are thinking big. I love that you're thinking big in South Florida, and I'm thrilled to call you a neighbor. I look forward to getting back to the tropics and being able to share a coffee or a drink. So thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day and stay safe.
Este fue otro programa de Aquí y Ahora, auspiciado por PAG.law, especialista en Venture Capital. Hasta pronto.